Hello friends, I am Mikko from Team Unbox, and just last weekend at Battle Hardened Manila, I was able to take my favorite hero, FAI, to top 4 in the PTI Class Constructed tournament. So I'm here to talk more about the deck and give a little bit of deck tech and why it's my choice and what happened during my rounds. So just a little recap and maybe a few insights. So I was supposed to bring my original list, but after I got home, after losing to Andre, by the way, congrats Andre, by the way, congrats Kampai, I was so eager to just find some sort of solution against the Kasai matchup, which is probably my story of the night. Because looking at the top 4, I would have faced any other opponent during the top 4, just not the Kasai, because that is the one that I'm least familiar with. Bravo I can handle, Dory I can handle, but Kasai is a different story. And that is because of Valiant Dynamo. So I'll do you guys one better and present the list that I would have bought if I had the lessons that I had learned from the weekend. So before we proceed, I guess we can talk about FAI first. So he is known as the default aggressive deck in Flesh and Blood, and he sort of has this meme going around him that he doesn't block. And this is because what FAI wants to do is get on the offense. He wants to create long combat chains, take your opponent for a ride, find great massive momentum triggers, and make them block, and then just keep them blocking and then just roll over them from there. And he also has this funny other reputation of being washed out because he didn't have an upgrade for a long amount of time. So people thought that maybe he'll just vanish into obscurity. But no, recently he actually won the World Championship, much to the hope of FAIs everywhere. So here we are. The main thing that you have to choose when you are playing FAI is whether you want to go the 2 Kodachi routes, the 2 harmonized Kodachis, or the Ember Blade route. So both have their pros and cons, and if you go to the FAI Discord, it's an eternal debate of which of these 2 weapons people prefer. And the real answer is, well, up to your playstyle. But personally, I prefer the harmonized Kodachis because I'm more comfortable with them, especially in specific matchups like Bravo and Dorinthia, where I can just board out all of my crazy stuff like Art of War and some 2 blocks like Bittering Thorns or Double Strike in favor of putting in the reacts, just shutting down whatever they want to attempt, and then just poking them back with Kodachis and other value cards like Mounting Anger, which is a 1/4/4, or Blaze Headlong, which is a 0/4/4. And then over the course of the game, I'll just try to get them to use more cards with massive momentum and then just grind them out of the game. And that's how you handle it. That strategy I can't do to the same efficiency with Ember Blade, partly because I really don't know how, and partly because I find it a bit clunkier. And Dories and Bravos, which are really popular here, have a really easy time blocking those three power attacks. So for me, it's Ember Blade, it's double Kodachis and Mask by default. And then if I really have to go balls to the wall aggro, I just put Pouncing Links and Ember Blade, just like your average Ember Blade player. The only difference is that I don't have that high of a damage ceiling because I don't have Spreading Flames. But other than that, it is fine. Ember Blade worked really well for me, along with Pouncing Links during my really crucial top 8 against Ralph, who played excellently throughout the whole match, but I just managed to eke out a win. Like, I managed to take him down from 29 health to lethal. If that didn't happen, if the stars didn't align there, he would have just hit me back for even bigger damage. And he didn't even have Art of War during that turn. So Katsu, really, really rough matchup for us. Let us talk about the changes that I made in the deck. Number 1 is I remove Rabble. If you have seen me on stream, every time I Rabble for 2 for some reason. Then off stream, the Rabble is super performing well, but I guess it's just that the numbers don't align with how Rabble works. I used to have 12 blues and 9, or rather 8, no, and 9 yellows. And ultimately, that leads to Rabble like hitting for 3 or 2. So I removed it. I just committed to having more blues so that I could transfer Command and Conquer from the side deck into the main deck. I have noticed that in my matches, I keep siding in Command and Conquer because I want a lot more interaction. These prove really strong against aggressive decks, especially when they are ahead. They are forced to stop and block and or use their armor or just anything else. So finally, because I have 15 blues and then I have 8 yellows, I can totally put Command and Conquer here and not worry about if I can pay for its cost. So instead, in its place, I put this, especially for you, Valiant Dynamo. I hate you so much. This is Liquefy. So Liquefy, if you can pull it off and if people aren't expecting it, you could totally melt the Valiant Dynamos with just one hit of a stray Phoenix Flame as long as you can trigger its Rupture, which is Chainlink 4 or above, which is easy when you have things like Double Strike, or just set it up with Kodachi hits just to get the Chainlinks up, and you can try to bait them with mass triggers, and then you raise your Phoenix Flame, and then you play it for 1, and then okay, fine, it's just 1, plus I don't have to worry about mass triggers, and then boom, you hit them with a Liquefy. You target that Valiant Dynamo, and then your problems are solved for the rest of the match. But just to be safe, I've also put in, instead of 2, I put in 3 copies of That All You Got, because the play pattern of Kasai leaves them open to this, especially for their first attack. It is often that they will front load all of their damage on their first hit or on their second hit, but very rarely on both. So you can just trap the 2 attack Centaur Saber with one of these, and at worst they will be forced to like blow out an attack reaction just so that the draw doesn't trigger and you don't get an advantage, but at least you get to see what they're playing. So those are the main changes that I made to the deck. Other than that, I went back to Salt the Wound because, I don't know, man, Tenacity doesn't work much for me. But Salt the Wound, especially when you use it with Bouncing Links, it can end games really quickly. So I like these two rather than Tenacity. Tenacity in theory was like good value, but in practice, or at least in the games that I experienced, it's not really working out. Let's talk about the Kasai matchup, because out of my 3 losses, 2 of them were from Kasai. So the Kasai matchup is really tough because of the way that Valiant Dynamo works. They almost always have 1 armor, and the longer that the game drags on, the more value they get of their armors. Not only that, it's very effective at stopping Kodachis. And my one main error during throughout the match is that assuming that I could outvalue the Valiant Dynamo with a slow grindy game, which is contrasty, and that's me being a dum-dum, but it is what it is. So if I were to change my loadout against Kasai, then it would be Pouncing Links and Emberblade. You treat it like an Azalea matchup wherein you board in these 2 so you get access to big amounts of damage whenever you want them. When you have when you have the leeway to do a long combat chain, which happens a lot more often in Kasai matchups rather than in Azalea. And then that way, even if you don't get your Liquefy, you still get to attack with Emberblade for 3. Also, you board in the Liquefies and then all 5 of these. And then we go even one better. We board in the Sink Belows and the Fate Foreseens just to shut down their gold and copper turns, so that you can hang back a bit and they won't get too much value late in the game. Other than that, for the Katsu matchup, you can go 2 routes. You can either play it safe, try to shut them down with all of the Death Reacts, since we have a lot of them around here, or you can just go balls to the wall aggro, do it on a die roll. When you are siding out for the Death Reacts, usually the first thing to go, surprisingly, is Art of War, followed by the 2 block that you don't need, so you get to pick either Bittering Thorns or Double Strike. But, I mean, Double Strike work super well with Liquify, so usually it's Bittering Thorns that gets thrown out. And then finally, you get a 3-block that you don't need. Snatch is good for like just threatening, but sometimes I remove Enlightened Strike because sometimes it leads to awkward turns. But if I'm not really sure about what to board out, I board out Lava Vein Loyalty, because sometimes it just breaks your hand. Other than that, it's the usual FAI play that a lot of guys out there have covered. So it's just when you're on mask, you make them block an awkward mask trigger, or you just keep pressuring them. So eventually you wear down their armor, you wear down their cards in hand. So it's not really about drawing a card, it's more of like lessening the cards in hand. Then you just put up the pressure and then wait for your big 5-card turn, and then you just take the game from there. And yeah, that's it. I guess that's all you need to know about FAI. So FAI, very beginner-friendly hero. If you're new to Flesh and Blood, I suggest you give him a try. Besides, we need more ninjas around here locally, and ninja cards right now are super cheap. So don't go KO. Give FAI first a try, and you might like him. All right, that's it for the deck tech. Yeah, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to play with you guys soon. Bye bye.